This is the Avermedia Mingle Bar. It might have a funny name, but it ends up being one of the most interesting 4K USB webcams that I've ever seen. Let's get straight to the specs on this thing. It's a USB 3.2 Gen 1, aka USB 3, 4K USB webcam with a really wide 124-degree field of view using a Sony Starvis sensor. Has a handful of onboard processing functionality like auto framing, noise reduction, and auto face exposure. And now the auto framing is interesting in of itself, but what I found most interesting of its features was that it has a 3.5mm microphone input. Yes, a webcam with a microphone input. Other features that make this interesting are docking station-like features. It has an Ethernet port, which the way this works is as a USB Ethernet adapter, and an HDMI output to connect an additional display. There's also a USB port to connect a keyboard or mouse or something like that through it. I also want to point out that this thing has some pretty good sounding speakers. At this point, you may have figured out that this is more of a professional use device. Onboard speakers and a microphone. Yeah, this is a conference call camera. But either way, let's keep on digging and check this out. There's a lot to like and also stuff to dislike with a device like this. The audio through the built-in speakers sounds fantastic, loud and full.
People really do care about where you take a story in a series, and
the 124-degree field of view is awesome to make sure it can see everything and everybody in the frame. You can make a room look significantly bigger than it really is. This is just a 10:9 room. Then, speaking of people in the frame, the onboard AI framing is super useful for subject tracking. It does a great job at zooming in and tracking a single subject, then it automatically accommodates if more people enter or leave the frame. Pretty neat. Now another function of this is AI framing. So this is obviously a really wide shot, which I've mentioned, and that might always be ideal, but as you can see, it decided to track me with the AI framing. Now if I move around in the frame, it's going to follow me without necessarily having to move the camera or move anything. It just does it automatically. If I go here, I go over there, whatever, it knows. Now it's going to back up, it's going to find me, and then it's going to zoom back in on me just like that. Now that previous test had the microphone AI noise reduction set to medium. Now I've gone ahead and turned it off. AI noise reduction can sort of make a microphone sound a bit muddy, but this should help it sound a little clearer. However, when no matter what kind of microphone you're looking at, when it's way over there and you're way over here, if there's a lot of distance between you, there's only so much you can do. So the best that this microphone can even hope to do, in my eyes, is to just be able to pick up the voices of everybody and have it heard clear enough, because you're not going to be looking for like treble or lows or mids or anything specific like that. My first downside though is the 3.5mm microphone input. I tried it with a handheld microphone and a lavalier microphone and it only intermittently worked. But when it did work, it did sound great. The way I had this connected didn't seem like it was reliably working. It was cutting in and out, and when it was going through this, it sounded great, but it didn't really reliably go through it. However, I've now connected a lavalier microphone through it. This is the one that I use when I shoot with my main mirrorless camera. Let's see how this sounds, yeah? Now, if you're going to be using this connected to a computer in the way that it is demonstrated here right now, it's probably still a recommendation to get an external microphone or something that's going to be closer to you, headset microphone. I hope this function is further tuned with the firmware update, but I've also given some feedback to Avermedia to use the companion software for this camera and let us manually toggle the auxiliary microphone input ourselves when desired, so that relying on automatic jack detection to make sure it switches from its onboard mic to an external mic is in the control of the user. All right, I'm going to give this microphone one more chance now that I'm closer to it though. So it should sound a little bit better like this, but I don't think it's going to outshine this guy. The microphone also has a decent range. So here we are with the Mingle Bar in my sort of streamer or content creator setup, or if you're just going to be using this as a face cam for your Zoom meetings, your team calls, your Discord, whatever, video calls, any of that sort of stuff. This is kind of the idea of how it would look like and how it would sound through an external microphone. This is the Avermedia Live Streamer Mic 330. Now, I'm sure some content creators or people just looking for the best webcam might see this and want to make it their face cam. Don't. It doesn't really make a great face cam, but that makes sense since it isn't its intended purpose. Some of the onboard image processing overprocesses faces a bit too much, so if it zooms in or you manually zoom in using the Avermedia Connect software, the sort of interpolation look is pretty obvious and possibly a little unsettling.
Now I am noticing something a little weird with the tracking, in that when it zooms in, it looks a little weird or a little washed out, kind of like it has a filter on it or something like that. I verified there's no filters. I double checked that stuff was, anything that could mess with the image quality was unchecked. But when I look at the OBS preview window, this looks fine to me.
If you're looking for absolute sharpness and clarity in a face cam, you won't find that here, but you'll also be hard pressed to find that in any USB webcam. That has been getting better with recent releases though. That goes to say that if you are looking for a high quality, wide field of view 4K USB webcam from Avermedia, maybe check out the PW515. All that said, its intended usage for conference calls in professional settings and group setting stuff that content creators or streamers might use it for, this ends up being a pretty good option for that. The simplicity of this being USB, having a decent noise canceling onboard mic, a wide field of view, and the auto framing make this pretty attractive for those uses. This camera comes in at $599. Given the focus of this YouTube channel, a number like this might hurt to see, but the intended market for this camera is the professional setting where it's competing against conference call cameras from brands like Logitech that range anywhere from $700 to $1,400. In the professional environment, this price is pretty acceptable. But then again, there are Twitch streamers running around out there with $2,000 to $3,000 backpacks. So maybe for some, it's just about perspective. If you're after a high quality face cam but don't want to break the bank, check out this video as well where I show you just that. If you like this video, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you don't miss a single upload. Also, you can catch me live to answer any of your questions every Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/coalitionchris. So come on by. My name is Chris and I've been your stream technician. I'll see you guys in the next one.